Oh, so this is crazy. There's people, and I'm on a stage, and I didn't know if this is ever going to happen again. So a couple observations before I get started. It's always good to wear the same shirt you have in your headshot when you come to an event like this. It goes over really well. I've been doing a lot of presentations over the last year. Some of them, I think, Victor, I don't know what the biggest one we probably had was 16, 17,000 people on a Zoom call. And all you see is a light, and you're talking, and sometimes you get lost in your talking, and then you're kind of like, oh shit, I'm talking to 17,000 people right now. And then the only thing you have, the only indication is the chat, and it's flying by, and you're seeing people commenting things, but I tell you, this is a lot different. Having a ring light in your eyes is kind of the same effect as these lights in your eyes, but this all feels very, very different. And I just realized when I was talking to Jason, the last time I was on stage was here, which was I don't know if it was exactly 2 years ago, but it was whatever it was for those of you here last time. That was the last time I was on stage. Anyway, let's see here. So, all of us in some way used to run a monopoly. Everybody had to come to work, and we had to give them a desk. And yeah, we were talking about trying to share, and some people were doing it better than others. Some people were way down the line on, neighborhood seating and sharing desks. For us, we were all about getting more space faster. Right before the pandemic hit, we were actually trying to move a bunch of engineers into 4-foot desks to see how many people. We wanted to fit 800 people into a new building we were trying to take a lease on. And it was so crazy that we were halfway through design and we didn't have a signed lease yet to fit 800 people. And then the world stopped, and that whole, I knew it was ridiculous and I hated it. And I couldn't get anybody to stop long enough to talk about a better solution. Oh, by the way, I have a really great graphic designer that's doing my presentations now, and he loves animations, and I didn't have the heart to say I'm not an animation guy, but so I got lots of them for you today. So because of that need for speed, we definitely took a one-size-fits-all. Yeah, there were variations for our engineers that the rest of our folks, G&A and sales, didn't have. But in general, it was the same solution everywhere for everyone. And it was all about speed and efficiency. We had to have the quantity. We tried to make really great space, and I think we did a pretty good job. But that was the last consideration because we just had to have the space. And the response we would get from people is, yeah, okay, great. Just get me more desks. I need more desks for more people. And we knew we didn't like it. We knew we didn't want it. But again, no one was willing to listen. And then everything changed. And we, the Great Resignation, what our CEO calls the Great Reshuffle, is a real thing. Right now, by the end of this calendar year, over 35% of our employees will never have set foot in an office or have met anybody at the company in person. And that's shocking when you consider the size of our company, and that's been less than 2 years, really, since this all started. And it's a very, very different workforce that lives in a lot of different places. And we frankly don't even know all the places that our workforce lives in yet. And we're starting to get data on, there's 50 people in this city, there's 100 people in this city, but they have relocated, they have moved, and we've hired a whole bunch of people that we wouldn't have hired previously. So with this came my push for the team to evolve our mission statement. Why do we exist? And it's kind of an existential question, because at the beginning of the pandemic, we had a meeting, and it's when Jeff Weiner was still our CEO, and it was talking about returning to, we're going to close offices, and then we started having a conversation. Our first conversation is, well, when are we going to go back, and can we start planning for it? He's like, whoa, guys, this is not a when, this is an if. And from his perspective, he was saying, we got to ask ourselves, do we even need offices anymore? Should we even be, and this was like March of last year. Should we be completely rethinking what we do and how we do it? And for us, what our mission was previously was pretty straightforward, but it was also very ambiguous. Create phenomenal workplace experiences. And can I measure phenomenality? Maybe, maybe not. And I could just say it's phenomenal, but it was all about trying to make something that was really wonderful, because you had to come in, we were going to make it the best we could make it, because we were kind of trying to attract and retain the best talent. A big part of that is our workspace. We have gone down a path of completely rethinking what it means to be workplace and why we exist. So inspire and empower people to create connections, strengthen relationships, to do their best work. So in those words, there's a lot built into that one sentence. So it's a big ask to say that we would try to inspire people, inspire our employees with the experiences we create. That's the spaces, the services, the programs. But in doing so, it's about lifting them up. It's about giving them energy that they don't have when they're at home. We also want to empower them. We want to empower them to do three things. First thing is creating connections. So that 30 to 35% of people that I talked about that have never met anybody in the company in person, we want to be a facilitator of creating connections. But beyond that, we want to help you not just create a connection, but we want to help you strengthen the relationships that you start to create from those connections, and strengthen relationships you already have had, or rebuild relationships you've had. But all this is in service of helping our employees do their best work. So we thought it was really important to completely reframe and restate why we exist, and that this is not a given that we as workplace professionals need to exist or will exist. There's a lot of companies decided that they don't need to exist. So we want to continue to remind ourselves the value, the reason we exist and the value we bring. At the same time, we partnered with our HR team to develop our flexible work policy. And if you haven't seen it or heard about it online, we have gotten to this place where it's all about trusting individuals to do what's best for them and their teams, and we want to meet them where they're at. We want to accommodate them, whatever that means. So whether that means being a remote employee, whether that means working from home some of the time, all the time, we want to be there for you to support the way you work best. And one thing I think that's important for all of us to acknowledge in what we do is the home office is not going anywhere, and it's not something to be afraid of. I've had a number of conversations, and people would say, well, do we really want to acknowledge that? Because by acknowledging that, we're kind of saying that we're giving it credence. I'm like, well, you have to. None of us can deny that if you have a good home office setup, it works for a lot of things. And there's a lot of times where it's really good at what it does. I don't personally love working there, and I would rather be around people. But there are times where there is a lot of value that can be derived out of working from home. And for some people, it's a much better setup. So we are trying to embrace it and saying, all right, we're going to make the home office experience the best we can make it. So we want to empower you to create a great home office setup. We want to give you the furniture that you need. We want to help you design the space to be the best that it can be. That doesn't mean we're not going to focus on physical workplaces, but we're also not going to discount. It feels very disingenuous if we don't all acknowledge that the home office is important. Because then when we're selling the workplace and it feels like we're selling it in lieu of the home office, people are gonna be like, yeah, but I work better at home. So we wanna make sure that we have really acknowledged it, and Jason stole my thunder. I talk about this a lot. We need to come up with the reasons that people would leave their home office and actually put pants on to come into work. Because I honestly don't know how many people that I'm talking to on a regular basis are wearing pants. I mean, they could be wearing sweats or yoga pants or not, but I don't know. And the funny thing is, for those of you who have met people who you didn't know before, who were hired during the pandemic, and then you've met them now in person, I've had the experience a number of times. First of all, when people meet me, they're like, holy shit, you're taller than I thought. And then I see them, and I'm always going to have a reaction to, I didn't expect something about meeting them in person is different. But we really want to figure out reasons to give people real motivation to come into the office. So here are the things we're doing. And I'm going to focus on, and we're doing a lot, but I'm going to focus on 5 things right now. We're going to be intentional, and we're going to help people be intentional about the decisions they make. We want to create unique experiences and spaces that you can't get when you're at home. We want to create worthwhile experiences that are memorable, that you get something out of, and that make you want to come back again. It's really important to acknowledge that we're going to iterate as we go, because we don't have this figured out. We literally don't know. I don't think anybody knows. So we want to try and figure this out together. And last, as hybrid work evolves and flex work evolves, we're going to evolve with it. So, hey Victor, can you bring my water when you have a chance? Intentionality. So we want to have planning strategies that start with, okay, over the course of a year, a quarter, a month, thank you very much. I haven't done this in a while. A year, a quarter, a month, a week, and even a day, those chunks of time, how are you going to use your time? And most of us don't plan that. I mean, yes, I have a conference coming up. Yes, I need to go to this site and visit somebody, and I can start to plan around those things. But you never had a plan with intentionality around when you're going to be together in person with other people. We actually just did an experiment in the month of October with my entire workplace organization. We called it Intentional October, and we looked to schedule all the things that were happening over the course of the month. We asked everybody to put all their intended locations day by day, and we kept reiterating, I don't care where you're at. I don't care if you're at home the entire time. Does not matter to me. But I just want you to share where you're going to be so the rest of your team can see where you're at and they can plan accordingly. Because pre-pandemic, there was nothing worse than coming into the office and having nobody there. Now, you come in, and I'm sure some of you experience this, when I come in the office sometimes and I'm in a building and I'm literally the only person there, it's really depressing. I mean, literally depressing, and I don't even want to go back again. And then you get on the road and there's no cars, and then it gets really creepy and you feel like you're in a movie. But, so we're also developing tools to help people do this. I know, and Microsoft is building some tools within Teams, within Outlook, to help people plan more intentionally. We're also building, within our Workplace app, we're building a tool to allow people to schedule. But I think this is something that a number of companies, and maybe some folks in this room, are already thinking about, to develop tools to help people plan more effectively so that when they're together, they're coordinated in their togetherness. So I'm going to talk about 5 unique spaces. These are renderings of our headquarters building. It's just about to open, that we're really proud of in Sunnyvale, our new headquarters. And I'll get into those now. Dynamic work environment is our new neighborhood typology. We started on this 3.5 years ago, almost 4 years ago. And we had gotten to the point where we were doing a couple pilot programs right before the pandemic, just getting ready to start them, and then it all stopped. We have gone all in on this, and we have a number of these spaces, and we're pretty much hoping that it works out really well, because we've already gone down this path. In a nutshell, what it is we give the control to teams. So we have a variety of work point types, some traditional desks, some things between a desk and a sort of lounge setting, and everything in between. So there's 6 or 7 different workspace types or work point types within a neighborhood. We decide on a sharing ratio for the team, and we're even doing sharing ratios for engineers. And even if it's a really low sharing ratio, because to some of the points that Dan and Jason made before, we weren't using space before the pandemic. I mean, our highest utilization was close to 60% on an average attendance basis. So we already knew this was an issue. We're trying to put the power with the teams. We're trying to give them a sense of ownership and of feeling like a startup. So we're saying, here's your neighborhood, here's your sharing ratio, here are the rules we would recommend, but you guys can set up whatever rules you want within your organization. And then if you want to assign seats to some people, have at it. And if those people come, we would recommend giving those to the people that come in on a regular basis, because what we don't want to see you do is, in a room like this, 10% of you come in, and one is over there, and one is over there, and one is over there, and you guys are sitting super far apart. Then why did you come in? If you came in to be around people, there is no value in it. So we want to give them the ability to sit where they want to sit and sit near one another. There's a lot of things we're trying that we may find don't work, but what we're asking of all the teams is, we're asking for your partnership. We're asking for you to iterate with us and learn as we go. And we're going to evolve this over the next 2 years as we get into space and start using it. Super important, though, with these neighborhoods is at the same time we have plenty of heads down workspace. So this is a rendering of one of the spaces we're creating right now. We have them happening all over the world. We typically had libraries, And it was usually a fairly good, 200-300 square foot room with 5 or 6, maybe 8 seats in it. We're going much farther than that. And we're going to even transform entire neighborhoods or floors of buildings and say, this is quiet space only. So for those people who either are coming in because they can't concentrate at home, because for every person who has a home office set up like that slide I showed, there are other people who have 4 roommates or 3 kids and 2 dogs and can't deal with the noise and distraction, and they're trying to come in and get stuff done. And if everyone else is coming in to be collegial and be around other people, then there's a disconnect there. So we want to make sure that we have plenty of heads down workspace for the people that want it. We want it to be really well outfitted, and we want it to be the type of space where you can really focus, but it's a very cool vibe, lower lighting, super quiet. Hybrid meeting space. This is huge, and I'm sure you guys are all thinking about this and trying to figure out how to do it. I could give a 30-minute talk just on hybrid meetings and how awful they are right now, and all the pitfalls we're running into between technology and room layouts, but we're trying to solve for that, and we're doing a few different things. And to the point that about collaboration space is increasing, we're seeing people go into conference rooms just to hang out there all day because they're really used to having their own office at home. And now they want their own office in the office. And they can blame masks right now because, yeah, it makes sense. I go in, I don't want to have to get on a Zoom call or a Teams call with a mask on, so I go into a conference room. But then they're like, well, I might as well stay here. I'm already here. And they don't leave. And all of our systems will break if we don't fix that. I know of a couple companies that are actually going all the way to the other end of the spectrum, and they're taking out all conference rooms, and they're only going to have one-person rooms in the office. And they're basically saying, if you're going to have a meeting, it needs to be virtual. If you're going to be, or you need to be on individually. But we don't want you meeting and excluding anybody from the meeting. It is going to be a constant struggle for all of us. We're looking at new room layouts, getting rid of tables and chairs in the traditional sense in rooms where we're going to have hybrid meetings, a more informal setup. We're looking at other setups where I can have a camera facing everybody. So, because if you've been in a hybrid meeting yet and you've done the whole I'm on my laptop, and we get everybody in the meeting is on their laptop on the called in. Plus it's up on the screen. So it's this weird, I'm talking to you, now I'm talking to you, now I'm talking to you, now I'm looking at the screen, and I'm not really looking at it. No one knows who to look at. And it's super awkward. And some people are constantly looking at the camera on the wall because that's what we've done that for years, and they keep looking there, and all everybody's seeing is the side of their face because that camera on the home person's view is a little box of a big room, and they don't see your face. They just see the side of your face now, and you're addressing them. We actually recently had a presentation with somebody that came in to talk to us about a program we're trying to develop, and there were 12 people in the room, and there was 12 people hybrid. And they were pitching ideas around hybrid work. Every one of them got up and presented and then stood in front of the camera and talked to everybody in the room. So everyone was at home, looked at their back. And I didn't stop them because I said, well, this shows me what this is going to be like, and you guys obviously haven't figured this out, but it's old habits we have to break. This image that I'm showing of hybrid meeting space is actually something called a Flexzone. We developed it in partnership with Hayworth over a couple of years. And it's a flexible room that's not a room that has marker boards that open and close on it. It's acoustically separated. It's not isolated, it's separated. And it has digital displays inside of it, but it also has marker board, like traditional marker boards with capture cameras, so we can capture all that information and share with anybody who's remote. We're doing a bunch of these in a handful of buildings right now, and we're going to see how they go and how well they're utilized. So food has always been a big part of our culture, but now we're seeing food taking on even more importance. One of the things that's been happening over the pandemic, and at first for about 5 minutes I was upset about it, and I realized it was a great thing. We were seeing attendance where 75% of people that were coming in, so say 10 or 15% of our population was coming in, and on big days it was 20. 75% of those people were just coming for lunch and then leaving. And I was like, this is awful when I first heard it, and we got to stop this. And then I thought, well, wait, no. They're coming to the office because they want to see people. And yes, there's free food and they want to eat that, but it's really about seeing people, because when you go around and you'd watch people eat, they were all sitting together and they were all eating together. And I was like, this is wonderful. This is what they need right now. They don't need to come in and sit in a conference room with a mask on and talk to people from Zoom. They need to meet people, so let's do this. So what we've been doing is developing programs where we have little bits of food all day. And basically, whenever you come in, there's some sort of offering. And it's not big things, but there's hot cookies, or there's bagels in the morning, or there's something that is a reason for you to get around other people and collaborate and connect with them. We're also doing, and what's in this rendering, is we're pulling food service out of the cafes and pushing it into the office space. So traditionally, we had really nice large cafes that were really very well designed for food service venues that went completely unused 70% of the time. We're trying to get to the point where that energy and excitement of the cafe happens in space. We're still segregating it from the specific workspace specifically, but we've started to integrate it into the workspace or closer to physical workspace, just to try and get the energy that comes with people coming together. And that's a really great place to create those connections I talked about and strengthen relationships. And we want to keep doubling down on that. Other engagement spaces. Golf simulators are actually not that expensive in the big scheme of things, and it's a fantastic way to get people to come together and be in a space. You can have couches, you can have whiteboards, you can have digital displays. They can play golf or not, but they collaborate, connect, and they may get some work done along the way. I kind of don't care if they don't. There's plenty of time. We're all so efficient right now and so focused on meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting. Most of you don't stop to actually just connect with people. So we want to give people those opportunities. Another thing I didn't list on here that we're really big on is outdoor meeting space. And I didn't get into it because it's really just a Bay Area thing, but we have dozens of outdoor conference rooms, and they're tremendously popular. We're going to continue to make more of them, and we're going to try and build them in places that don't have as great a weather as California, and see if we can continue to build on that energy, because we were doing that pre-pandemic. They've been fantastic from a health perspective during the pandemic, but people frankly just love them. So we want to continue to do that as well. So worthwhile experiences. I'm going to talk about three things really quickly. On-site events. We are building a whole program around on-site off-sites. We used to spend a whole lot of money as a company on off-site events, and I'm sure a lot of the other folks in corporate real estate positions will have a similar story. And people did it because they wanted to get away from the office, and they wanted to go someplace fun. So they would go to major cities, go to a hotel, get a room like this or a smaller room, and while this place is great, I've been to a lot of hotels that had really, really terrible meeting rooms, and a meeting for 20 or 30 people, it's an awful experience for the whole day. And really, it's like, just get me out of here so I can go drink. That's all I want to do, is get out of here. So we're going to start building a program with concierge level service where we help people to plan events. So a manager of 15 people probably doesn't have the time or wherewithal to figure out an on-site get-together for their team. They're remotely located. They have 5 employees in Chicago. They have 2 in LA. Wherever they're at, how can I get them all together? It's overwhelming. And so they're going to default to something that's really easy, and it probably won't be that great. We want to create a set of curated experiences that are built around connections and relationships and helping people build strong and lasting bonds, because we think that's really the key to retention. Onboarding, we're working with our onboarding team to completely rethink what is our onboarding process. It used to be very much every Monday, group comes in, they all sit in the same room, they go through the same presentation, they're there all day, they have speakers come in, they get their laptop, they get their badge, all those sorts of things. Well, they're thinking about it from the perspective of maybe there's a bunch of things there that are actually better done remote and better done where I just mail that to you and I just have this conversation individually. And that the coming together is, again, about building relationships and memories. I still remember some of the people I met at mine 6 years ago, and we want to create that same sort of experience for our new employees, especially as more of them will become remote. And then culture refreshes. We have a lot of people who don't even know what our culture is and don't know what it means to be around each other. And we tell these stories almost like they're mythology. Oh, it's so cool, we used to do this. We're like, okay, yeah, great. And they don't get it. They have no connection to it. So we want to figure out how to bring culture back to life in our spaces in a way that's really going to mean something for all of our new employees. Last 2 points, iterate as we go. So this is all a big experiment for us. And we're openly acknowledging that with our executive team. And they love it. And they're talking about flexible work as an experiment. We're all experimenting together. We're iterating and learning as we go. One of the big things we need to do is educate our employees and spend more time teaching our employees about how to use space. Just giving them first day of business, open up, big party, give them a handbook that says, here's where all the spaces are, this is what the, and it doesn't matter how cool it looks, we've done everything. We've done digital, we've done print, we've done, VR codes, QR codes. We have to do more. We have to train people how to do hybrid meetings. We have to train people how to work as a team and collaborate and be intentional in their planning. They don't know how to do it on their own. None of us know how to do it. We try to do it as a team, and we realize how much we still don't know. We need to partner with the business in a way we've never partnered with them before. We have to get beyond the point of just trying to solve for more space, more desks as quick as possible. We need to understand the rhythm of their business and their needs, and we want to get to the point where we're actually telling them, hey, you know what? If you had this group come in on Wednesdays and meet in person, we think you would increase your profit margin. And that's not something that workplace people do, but we want to get there. So hybrid's going to evolve. We want to evolve. We first have to observe what's happening. We need about 6 to 9 months of data that we need to collect. Then we're going to analyze it. Then we're going to develop a long-term strategy for the future. So this is a couple-year journey, but we're really excited to start, and we can't wait to see where we all end up, 3 years from now. Thanks a lot for your time, guys.
Amazing, Brett. A really great and concrete ways in terms of where you're headed with your experiment. So it was a lot of insights there. We've got some time for questions, actually. Does anyone want to throw something up at Brett? There's a microphone coming.
Yep.
Hey, Brett, Chris from AT&T. Hybrid, hospitality, or new types of service support, that's a new skill set, and I heard this mentioned this morning. So what is your strategy for finding that talent or procuring that or even grooming it internally?
Yep, so great question. We are actually, that presentation I talked about is part of an RFP we're doing for a hospitality program. And we're finding out that no one really is that good at it yet. We're working with some of the food vendors, we're working with some of the facility management companies. I think this is something that someone's going to have to develop, and multiple companies are going to realize the need for. What we really want to have is off the shelf. There's a series of, say, 10 things that I could just literally go on an app, click on this, and just say, I want to book it for this day. Pick the number of people, pick the location, done, and the whole thing gets scheduled. Oh, food, yeah, click the thing. Other things would require weeks of planning and would require a relationship, just like if you were working with a travel agent to book a trip, but it's even more complex than that. So we're thinking we need to partner with somebody to start to develop the kind of initial version of it, our beta. But we are going to hire a couple folks, and we're going to find them in hospitality. We're not looking in workplace, and we're starting that search right now. So I don't know where it's all going to end up or how it's going to work exactly, but I just know we have to do it. And because I feel like we're missing a huge opportunity. We also have a lot of space. We're going to have a lot of space that, frankly, we don't need in time. I don't know if there's any way around us we probably need to grow in locations. We're going to continue to grow, but there are going to be sites where we just have space that's dormant. And what a great way to use that space to create on-site event locations, especially if you're in major markets, especially if you're in great locations in major markets, near hotels, near restaurants. Like you could actually pretty easily transform some existing spaces into hospitality-focused spaces. It's more about the service than it is about the space.
Question back here.
Hey, Brett. Thank you for sharing this. Some really interesting ideas. I have not so much a question, but I guess it is a question to you and to others in the room, which is, how do we start sharing among ourselves more intentionally. You're doing experiments, I'm doing experiments, Chris is doing experiments. How do we, because we're going to do some similar experiments, how do we start to pool our information? Here's what's working, here's what's not. You're doing some things that we're not, we're doing something that you're not. How do we get together and just get better, all of us?
Well, one thing I do, I have 3 groups that I meet with that are kind of different facets of, some in tech, some not in tech, of corporate workplace, that we meet once a month, or they all have different cadences, and we just do exactly what you're saying. So I'm sure that Jason would be happy to help us, coordinate some sort of group that gets together and just meets and shares. I mean, what we typically do in the ones that I'm a part of is we just all agree that this is all for each other's good. We're open and sharing. If there's something that can't be shared outside of that group, then you just say, please, this can't be, and we just respect each other. I've been doing that for 3 years now, and I haven't had any issues with any of the groups that I'm a part of.
I'm just thinking our results will be so much more powerful because we'll have greater data. If we do similar experiments, it's not just, well, we learned at Genentech it does this. It'll be like, well, we had however many thousand responses from Genentech and however many thousand responses from LinkedIn. I just
Right.
feel like we could move the needle faster, maybe?
Yeah, totally. I think for me, it's more for my own understanding, and the insights that we can gain from what you all are doing. I'm game. So if anybody else is, we're into it.
It's a great opportunity to make your groups actually here at Workspaces, and if you've got any suggestions for how we can create a space where we can do that, then we'd love to hear that. And just on that, we probably have time for one more question. Does anyone have something?
Monitors at home, a stipend, some stuff in the office. That's something we're really struggling with right now, trying to figure out, what's best. And frankly, is there a need for us to support people at home? Our model at CarGurus is 3 days in office is sort of our new norm for now,
Yeah.
right? That's our next experiment. But what do we do, right? Is our expectation that if you're going to choose to work from home those 2 days, that you've got what you need? Or do we need to keep supporting people?
So the way I'm thinking about it, and I've been pushing for this, and I will continue to push for it. Right now, we're funding just over $1,000 every new employee, a one-time stipend. They also have the ability to reimburse monthly for things like internet, just supplies and materials, internet. But we do the stipend, and we have negotiated pricing on a number of things, and we have a store set up so they can easily just go pick the things they need. Next thing we're doing is we're going to start providing design assistance. There's a new company, and I wish I remember the name. Do you remember the name? I'll think of it and share it later. There's a company that wasn't around work. It's a software, it's an interior space design thing where you basically take a picture with your phone, and then you can use their components and lay things out. And it actually is, I thought it was going to be cheesy. It actually is pretty good. So we're going to look at that software and some other software that's out there to let people do that and create their own setup. We are also going, so we're working with our IT team, this whole neighborhood seating then, and what do I have at the office? Monitors, so everybody also gets, on top of that allowance, everyone also gets an allowance for a monitor at home, and engineers can get 2 monitors. So that's the way we're set up, but that's a one-time thing. But then you'll have access to monitors at the office. The biggest question is peripherals, keyboards, mice. I get people telling me all the time, I don't want to have to lug my stuff all around. I'm like, really, lug a keyboard and a mouse? I don't know. Last time I checked, they weighed like a quarter of a pound. But I get it. It's the sense of having to deal with that. But we are providing everybody with peripherals at the office, and then we also have these ridiculous-looking vending machines with them. If you happen to forget something, you can bill it to your department. But yeah, I think it's important whether you're home 1 day a month or 4 days a week. I think it's important to give people the right setup so they can be really effective at home too. And it is not that expensive compared to what we do at the workplace, that's for sure. And if you do it as a one-time thing, it's not as bad. So that's.
We have time for one more quick question. Hey, Brett, how are you mapping like inclusive design into both the programmatic side of things and also just the built environment, making sure that it's not just for, the able-bodied folks that are in the space or even just those who have some sort of impairment, whether it's visual, auditory, things like that?
Awesome question. So we've been working with we have a number of ERGs, and our Enable In, everything has in it, but Enable In is one of our groups, and we've been working with them for a few years. First, we just did an audit. 3 years ago, we did an audit of every space we have and what do we need to do to improve it and change it. And really that's a lot about accessibility, and accessibility is pretty straightforward. What we've been focused on is going way beyond that. And we don't yet have a definitive checklist that we're doing site by site, but we're trying to get to the point where we do. Right now, it's more of, have you asked the right questions? Do we have the energy around it? Just making sure that every project, it's being considered to the extent that it can. I do want, it's this fine line we always walk between guidelines and standards. And I don't want to get to a place where we standardize things and people aren't thinking, because these things change, like literally the requirements and the ideas about how it can be more inclusive feels like it's changing weekly to me. So I think we're just trying to have everybody with the mindset on all our projects that you're always thinking about it and it's top of mind. But I think now it's even more acute to the point I made about the people who have always had issues working in the office, who don't have those problems at home. They are really, really feeling it when they come in, and they're super sensitive. So I think it's going to force all of us to be better about it. But I think creating, one of the big things for me, this whole heads down workspace thing, I hope will solve a lot of these issues, because it checks a bunch of boxes on that gamut of creating a space that's more inclusive for more people. But it's also just variety of space types. I have visited a few of our sites recently that, they're super clean, super organized. There's no stuffing on the desks anymore. And you walk in and just see like 200 desks. And I'm like, we don't need this anymore. No one wants this. This is like that. And I think this is the reality of it's just, even though there are still managers who haven't totally got on board with this and are still saying, I want everybody to come in all the time, I want to sit at the desk, they're like, well, good for you. They're not going to do it. And so anyway, I think there's a lot still to learn, but I think the biggest thing for me is that we have asked the questions on every project, and if we need to admit to ourselves when we're not doing well and be willing to stop, go backwards, and correct it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brett, and round of applause, man. Awesome presentation.